I'm now going to share with you what has been presented to me over the past couple days. And what I noticed was that with my niece, someone prayed a spirit of perversion over her. How do I know this? I know this because 2 nights ago, night before last, she came and I noticed that some of the stuff that she was watching, it was of women. So there's 2 spirits here. There's the spirit of perversion, and then there's the spirit of homosexuality or lesbianism, whatever you want to call it. I noticed that some of the stuff that she kept trying to show me, it was of women, right? She liked to watch a lot of grown shows. She don't really like little kid stuff, but it was of women, and these women, these characters, these little cartoon characters, they were half naked. So most of her characters that she created, they were half naked. When we were dressing her doll, I noticed that she kept drawing her attention to the things that were revealing. And I found myself at a crossroads because I was like, I'm looking at my niece, but at the same time, I see a spirit. So I have to be careful because I need to, it can be difficult, when you are looking at a spirit and then the person, especially when it's a baby, it's a child. It's difficult for people to do it as adults. But imagine when children come into play, because they are completely unaware, right? They are completely uneducated. Their conscience is not fully developed, right? As an adult would be. So you're looking at adult, most people don't really classify it as a spirit because they're like, no, they're consciously aware. They know what they're doing. They're adults. Children don't, right? So they are influenced. So what I found was that there was something taking place where the spirit of perversion and lesbianism was spoken over my niece. And she kept showing me these things of these cartoon characters of women. And they were always provocatively dressed. Breast hanging out, X, Y, and Z and stuff like that. So I didn't say anything when I first saw it. I was like, let's dress your doll. So we started to dress the doll or whatever it was on that little thing that she'd be on her iPad. And then I said, we need to pick something else. So we had to compromise. What took place was that we got rid of the tube top. And then we put on a full length shirt. And then we put on some ripped jeans. So the compromise was the ripped jeans. And I was like, okay, that's decent. She was like, I said, you like it? She said, I like it. I said, good. We go, and then I noticed that same night when we was in the bed, she was drawn to this game. And this game was like a squishy thing. She keeps talking about this squishy thing, which keeps bothering me. Not the squishy toy within itself, but the squishy aspect of it. She went to this game, and this game was, all you had to do was put your finger on it, and it would be like a squishy, like a mixture, a mesh. And it made this wet noise when you press on it. And I wasn't paying attention at first. I was watching television, and she was on her iPod. But the wet noise kept bothering me. And I kept getting this weird feeling. And then I heard spirit of perversion. Spirit of homosexuality. So I looked at the game and I realized that not only did it make this wet noise every time she put her finger on it, as if, we've all had sex before, right? So I looked and I realized that it was pink. Just like a woman's private part. So I said, spirit of perversion, spirit of homosexuality. So I found myself getting annoyed, and I didn't realize I was getting annoyed, but I was getting annoyed because the spirit has just irritated me. Not my niece, the spirit did. So I looked at my niece and I said, you need to change that, baby. And she goes, why? I like it. So she ended up changing the color. She changed the color to purple. And then I looked at her and I said, you need to change it or you need to turn it down. Turn it all the way down. I don't want to hear it. You can play it, but I don't want to hear it. And then she kept begging me, let me just turn it up a little bit. I said, no, either you turn it all the way down or you would turn it off. So she said, okay. She ended up turning it all the way down, and then eventually she turned it all the way off. Then she kept talking about the squishy toy. Now the squishy toy, this thing that she keeps talking about, is just like a little bar of soap. That's what it looks like. But when you touch on it, it's squish. And then what I see is spirit of perversion. I am telling you guys this because I want you to know how I operate, how these spirits operate. And I want you to know the perversion that is in this world, especially when people have something to lose, especially when people are desperate, especially when people are thirsty for power. They don't really care what spirit they enact, right? And they don't really care how they enact it. They will more than happily just do it. So as I'm looking, she keeps talking about this squishy toy, and then it's all squishy, and when you squeeze on it, guess what it reminds you of? It reminds you of a woman's private part, because our private parts are considered to be squishy. Our private parts make noise when it gets wet. Our private parts is pink. Doesn't matter what color you are, black, white, Asian, whatever it is. Typically, it has a pink nature to it, right? So are we connecting the dots? We connecting the dots. So after that night, I said, okay, I see something is taking place where someone has spoken the spirit of lesbianism or homosexuality over my niece. Not only have they spoken it over her, they spoke the spirit of perversion over her. Not only did they do it over her, what they are trying to do is they are trying to send it to me through her. I realized that the first night she stayed with me. And I said, okay. And I said, we're going to pray about it, which is why I keep taking her to the scriptures. So then the second night, I noticed the squishy toys, the squishy game, and then the provocative stuff that she was doing. I said, okay, we're going to pray about it. God showed me the first strategy of the devil. The first night she stayed with me, he showed me what the devil was trying to do. So I just, went past it and I just prayed on my own. The third night, what I noticed was that when we was here, she comes. She was a little distant today, and I kept trying to figure out why she was a little distant. I didn't understand. Because day before yesterday, she was, not distant in the sense that there was something that changed about her. It felt different, right? She would, normally when we walk, she would grab my hand. We would hold hands and stuff like that. And I was like, I wonder why she's not holding my hand today, But I didn't worry about it because I was like, it's tired. I mean, it's late. She could be tired, all kind of stuff. She come to give me a hug. She come sit under me. She do what she do. And I know that that's another strategy of the devil, because the devil wants me to get used to affection because I have been in isolation for so long. But I'm not opposed to affection, nor am I, what's the word that I'm looking for? I have no problem showing affection or having someone show me affection. This is not an issue for me at all. When I want to show affection, I show it. If somebody wants to show me affection, I allow them to show it. I will not stop that. So I don't have a problem with affection, but the devil wants to try to use this moment, right? To try to get me used to affection. I am already used to affection. I know what affection is like. I've had great boyfriends in the past. Do you understand me? And some of them loved me unconditionally, whatever was going on. They showed me exactly what affection was. And then God showed me what affection is, according to him. So this particular night, which was last night, what I noticed that my niece kept throwing her legs in the air, showing her private parts. And she wasn't naked, but she had on full clothes. But I noticed, she would ask me sometimes, can I come in the bath with you? And I know that that's pretty standard for children. Children always run in the bathroom. However, when she said it, it felt different. And I told her, I said, no, you can't come in the bathroom while I'm taking a shower. I told her that the other night. I said, you can't come in the bathroom while I'm taking a shower. I told her that because I knew that someone had prayed the spirit of perversion and homosexuality over her. And seeing me naked was only going to activate the spirit more. So she can't see me naked. So last night when I saw that she kept throwing her legs in the air trying to show her private parts, I was disturbed. Because immediately what I saw was the spirit of perversion, homosexuality. And then I saw another strategy of the devil to try to make it look like pedophilia. So I was irritated. The devil managed to irritate me. But I love my niece. So I had to make sure I put on the hat that I was supposed to put on. I have a minister hat, and then I have and then I have an auntie hat, right? So I said, as an auntie, you're going to love your niece and make sure that you don't show that irritation to her, because she is a child. She do not know any better. Once I was done with that hat, I put on the minister hat, and I said, the devil has really irritated you. You now need to pray against everything that he is trying to do, including with your niece. Which is why I told her she could not interrupt me when I was praying. She now had to be silent, be quiet, watch a television show. And then I had to pray over her because of that spirit. So we had three spirits: the spirit of pedophilia, the spirit of perversion, and the spirit of homosexuality, all operating as one, trying to grab a hold of my niece and then also trying to jump onto me. So I told my niece, I said, you need to put your legs down. Don't throw your legs in the air like that. And she kept doing it. Like, she didn't do it after I told her to stop. But I noticed that before I told her to stop, she kept doing it. Legs wide open, private parts wide open. Now, children do stuff like that because that's normal behavior. But when there's a spirit behind it, it's different. It's much different. So I was bothered and irritated that someone prayed the spirit over my niece and then tried to jump it on me, which is why I told her she can no longer watch my YouTube channel. Because what I don't want to show up on my YouTube channel is a bunch of kid movies. I kept trying to direct her to the anime, but she didn't want to watch the anime. She wanted to watch real life children. And real life children on someone's YouTube can be misconstrued as real life pedophilia if someone managed to get a hold of somebody's account. She's my niece, so she don't know any better. But we watch anime movies with no problem. But she was adamant about watching specific types of shows, and none of them were animated. She kept drawing back to little children, little girls. So I was bothered because I noticed that someone was using my niece to try to make it look like something that was not truthful. I share this with you guys because I want people now to understand there's a difference between the flesh and the spirit. It took me a minute to learn that when I first got started, because adults, typically you want to see the flesh because you say they're adults, they're consciously aware, they're fully aware of what they are doing. So it's not really a spirit behind it that can be driving their actions because they're consciously aware. But I want you to know that there are a lot of adults that are not consciously aware of anything. They are walking dead spirits. And it made it, once I managed to get that lesson, because that was the first lesson God teach me, because he said, listen to me, you are my servant. Your calling is X, Y, and Z. That means you focus spiritually. Every time you see something, you focus on the spirit. I remember the bishop telling me that. He kept telling me, you keep saying names. You keep calling out people. But you are X, Y, and Z. You are looking at it wrong. So I was still learning. And I was like, well, I don't know how you see the spirit. I don't know how you see the spirit apart from the person. He said, you will. And sure enough, as time went on, I saw the spirit without seeing any visions, without having anything. I don't need to see visions or anything like that. I know the spirit. I feel it. God tells me the spirit. He will give it to me. And he won't show me a vision. So after I did that, and last night, what I realized with my nieces, I said, there's something different here. I said, this is a kid. You haven't been around kids in a while. I wonder how it will be. I always wondered before I got an opportunity to be with my niece. I said, I wonder how it will be when I come around children, because it'll be difficult to see the spirit with children, but actually being around the child made it easier to see the spirit. Because what I know for a fact is that children are innocent. Because their conscience is not fully developed. They are not fully aware of anything. So that means that the spirit is influencing them to do the things that they do, and they don't even realize what they are doing. Which is why it was easier for me to identify the spirit when I was looking at my niece. Because I already knew in the back of my mind what I kept saying, she don't know no better. She don't know any better. I knew she was innocent. But with an adult, oftentimes we don't say that. We don't say they don't know any better. Because we say they're grown, they're consciously aware. But many of them are not. So I've watched all of these filthy, nasty, disgusting little tactics of the devil that he is influencing his children to do, using innocent, simple things such as a squishy toy to activate a spirit of perversion. And many of you are not even able to detect what is going on in your life. One, because you have become desensitized to these spirits. You think you have control over them because you are able to send it. You have a little knowledge and send a little bit here, but most of you have been consumed by the very spirits that you are claiming to have control over. You can't tell true perversion because you activate perversion every day in your own life. We could go into a whole bunch of other spirits, but right now, since that is the example, that is what I'm going to use. And excuse me if I seem a little irritated and bothered. I am bothered because I've had to sit here and watch that for the past few days with my niece. Because some demonic influence in her life is using her to try to get to me. And they are going to sabotage or try to sabotage her life as well. Which is why I asked to get all of my nieces, well, not all of them, but at least the ones that I'm aware of, so that I can spend time with them. I could pray with them. Not pray with them, but pray over them. I prayed over them anyway. But I realized I've been apart from them for a while, and I don't really know them. I don't know them. And they don't really know me. So I said I was going to use that as my opportunity because this is what I do every time I come home to Memphis anyway. I get all of my nieces and nephews together. And I take them somewhere because typically I always have a little money in my pocket. So I make sure I take them on an excursion or something like that. And we go have ice cream and things of that nature. And we have fun and we get to just be us. And we do that at least one time when I come home. I don't have any money this time around, but I figured at least we could be in each other's company. And then I can talk to them, see what kind of stuff they like, things of that nature. I just wanted to share this with somebody because I have no problem putting my life on the forefront because, like I said, in the kingdom of God, we don't really have any secrets and I don't have anything to hide. But I want people to see what happens in my life so they can recognize the devil's strategy in theirs.